Hi there, it's Liz Yuille from Old Stables Crafts. Thank you for joining me again today. Today's project is this tag, which I thought was rather splendid. Modest though I am, obviously. So I thought I would show you how I made it. And I'm using the Botanical Bliss and Botanical Tags, upside down apparently, bundle. These are red rubber. I've got them in clear mount because I want to be able to use them with the Stamparatus, and I've got the acrylic blocks, and it is a more cost-effective way of doing it. Once you've got your acrylic blocks, you've got your acrylic blocks. So for me, rather than paying for the wood, I'm perfectly happy to go that way, and it means I can use the stamps with the Stamparatus. The other product that I'm using that's kind of new are these watercolor pencils, which are in the Blended Seasons limited edition set. So there's the stamp set, the framelets, and the watercolor pencils. These possibly, and we honestly don't know, but we have been told these might come into a future catalogue, or some of the colours may come into a future catalogue, but we honestly don't know. Certainly at the moment these are only available in August, and they're a really nice price point. They're only $11.75. So okay, so how am I making the tag? First thing to understand with all of the tag pieces is that they are 2 inches wide. So they have been made to work with a 2-inch strip. So this is a piece of basic black cardstock. I've cut it at 2 inches wide. You can see this is the 2-inch mark. So cut at 2 inches wide. If I just pop this onto the top of my piece of cardstock, it will click into place because there are these butts here. So it will click into place, and then I just have to run it through the Big Shot. So I will do that now. So bear with me while I pop that through. I've cut the piece of cardstock at a really awkward size because it's a mix of metric and imperial, because the dies are made to work at a 2-inch width, so they're 2 inches wide, but I've cut it at 10.5 centimetres, so it's half a width of A4 cardstock. So I literally cut a 2-inch strip and then cut it in half, because I was making two. One to show you and one to have ready. So I'm just going to bring in my somewhat full little mini bin rather. I'm just going to poke out the bits, and I'm just doing it whilst it's still in the framelit because it just gives it a bit of support. That's the word I'm looking for. Good grief, Rickenbacker. Right, so there we are. Really pretty. Now the others you can also cut so that they are single items, and I'll be doing something with that probably later in the week. So that's those. I have grabbed the Night of Navy, Gorgeous Grape and Flirty Flamingo watercolour pencils, and I have cut a piece of watercolour paper at 2 inches. And I'll show you with this what I've done. So this is going to be on the back, because obviously it's easier to write on very vanilla than it is on black. And also I've got this sandwiched between the two layers. So all I've done is take my 2-inch strip, feed it through my 2-inch circle punch, got it kept it as straight as I possibly can, and then punch. And that means, and I've done the same with the watercolour, that means that if I line that up on top of that, it's going to fit perfectly. So that's just worth knowing. And then what I will do is, actually I need to trim this a bit. So this is, the 10.5 centimetres is not an accurate kind of it's got to be measurement, but I'm just going to trim this so that the ends are the same length, because I'm going to round the corners. So it's useful if they are the same length. So I might as well, I'll leave that for the moment because we do need to do some drying, although I have done here's one I prepared earlier. So all I've done for the watercolour is, let me just grab a scrap of grid paper. I've taken my Night of Navy first and just popped down some colour. You do not need to be too heavy-handed. These are very highly pigmented, so do not go mad. This is the Gorgeous Grape. And then I just need to add, let's see how we're doing. Yep, just need to add some Flirty Flamingo. Now the Flirty Flamingo I am tending to put down more colour, only because it is a paler colour, but I want it to be a fairly rich colour. I don't need to come all the way across because if I lay my piece down, you can see that there's this hummock. A hummock is obviously a technical term. So that's the colouring. Then an aqua brush, and all I'm going to do is just move the colour around to fill in the space. And as you see, it's, let's just get some more water going. It's the Night of Navy pigment has moved perfectly nicely. And I'm just going to blend those two together. And I'm just going to grab a piece of kitchen paper and then start on the Flirty Flamingo. I just don't want the Gorgeous Grape to come and blend too much with the Flirty Flamingo. I do want that to be, I mean, I want it blended, but I'd rather go up into the Gorgeous Grape and then back up onto the Night of Navy. So that's that. Now I have done a here's one I prepared earlier just in case this isn't dry in time. It's a hot day today. It's about 30 degrees. So I think by the time you see this, well, actually, no, it's probably still going to be 30 degrees, thinking about the weather forecast. Anyway, I'm just going to pop that. Over here there is sunlight, so I'm going to pop it in the sun to see if that will dry. So it may not, and it may get blown away. Right, okay, so to make our, lost that bit, to make our tag, all we need to do is round the corners first. So let's get that done. Then we need to do some punching. I have prepared some die cuts so that it just saves a step. This is the Trio corner punch. Now, when you're using it, use the flat of your hand, because if I turn it over, you want the whole mechanism to move. If you only push on one corner, you're pushing the mechanism awkwardly. You want to go straight down. Yeah, don't just concentrate on one corner, because it won't do it very much good. I would hate for it to. Just found something really odd. Oh, it's a piece of sticky tape stuck to the edge of my desk. That was random. Sorry. Okay, so these will then sit on top of each other, and I'm going to trap the watercolor paper between the two. But we need a sentiment first. So a piece of very vanilla, just a strip that I've taken from when I cut my mats. Gorgeous Grape. And I have got somewhere, oh yeah, there, it's right in front of me, especially for you, mounted up on my G block. And I'm going to be really not frugal at all and stamp this right in the middle of this scrap. But it is only a scrap, so I'm happy with that. So that's our especially for you. And the reason I did that is because if I bring in the tailored tag punch, I can then pop that in the middle, and if I'm careful, I can line it up so that it does fancy corners for me. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be good enough. So there we go. Right, okay, let's mount all this together. So I have already die cut some of the fronds, and this is in champagne foil. This one I actually don't need all of, so let's get rid of the bottom bit. And now with this one I did it, I stuck everything completely flat. With this one I'm going to mount it on, apologies for that noise, that is my husband doing some watering. So I'm going to stick it all together with some edge bits of dimensionals. So I'm just going to cut a piece that's about the right width, and because this has got adhesive on both sides, so I'm going to pop that down there, and I'm going to trap it under. I have a bumblebee in the room, so apologies if you can hear buzzing. It is a bumblebee. So yes, that is now trapped under there, and I've got the especially for you on top. And then this piece I'm going to just add some adhesive to various leaves and stick it down. So multi-purpose adhesive. Oh, I've got a fly caught as well. I have windows in my roof, and they do tend to come in and get trapped. Every now and again I have to do a rescue mission. So I'm just popping some adhesive on the back of some of these leaves. Some of them will end up in mid-air, but it'll be fine. So if I pop that down there, around the especially for you, and then hold it for a moment, that should stick nicely. I'm not worried that this is loose. Well, I say I'm not. I might actually add a little bit of adhesive behind the top leaves. I mean, I don't mind that it's loose, but as it's a tag, if it was a card I'd be less concerned, but as it's a tag it might get caught. So we don't want that. A bit too much adhesive, that's right. Wipe it away, it dries clear, so that's fine. Hold that down. Okay, right, so the only other thing we need to add to that is some glitter gems. And I'm using the glitter enamel dots because these are gorgeous grape. So I'm going to use a couple of the small ones. I keep meaning to use my nice new piercing tool that actually has a point on it, and I keep forgetting to get it out, as opposed to the one I dropped on the floor. I'm actually going to tuck that one in under there, I think, as it's on a different level, and then one of the second size just at the base of that bird. So that's that, and then let's see how our... No, it's still not dry, so we'll use the... Here's one I prepared earlier. I can see it's still a bit... Still got that I'm a bit wet look. So here's one I prepared earlier. It really was a scrap. But if we pop that behind there, you can see that that fits quite nicely. So all I need to do is just trim this down a wee bit so that it's a better length. That's better. And I'm just going to trim that corner so that there was a bit of fluffy that was sticking out. Right, okay, so I'm going to remember that some of these leaves go outside the circle, so I'm going to put my adhesive inside the circle, so not on here, for example, or here, because that will just be adhesive in mid-air, which will be a bit odd. But just a little bit of adhesive, and I'm not using a huge amount, but just on some of the strategic points. And remember, we are going to then trap this behind a piece of Very Vanilla. So it's all going to be held quite nicely together. So obviously that bit I didn't really need, but you can then move that about a bit. Just pick up some of the excess with my fingers. That's what they're there for. Right, now all I have to do is pop some adhesive on the back for the Very Vanilla piece. I'm going to make sure that I'm right up at the edge and down on the edge. Oop. And apparently off the edge. And then just scribble and again come down the edge pieces so that we trap all of that. And get my Very Vanilla piece and pop it on the back. And then that will cover up the mess that is the back of the piece of watercolor paper card. Just hold that down for a moment and I will grab my 1/8 inch hole punch, and I'm just going to come in and try and go sort of in the middle. I went a bit far down on the first one, so I'm going to go up a bit and just punch. And if you're reasonably robust with your punch, it will go through both the Very Vanilla and the watercolour. And then this is some of the, now what do we call it? It's newish into the well, it's in the new annual catalogue. Oh, it comes as a, it comes on something different. It's the black cord. So yeah, it's the black cord. Let's pop that back. Obviously it will be listed on my blog where all the, well, roughly dimensions will be. It's going to be, start with lots of 2-inch strips. But there is a link to the associated blog post immediately below in the description bar, so I will have information about what I used and the basics down there. So there we go. Slightly different, so this is a bit more 3D, this is flat, but yeah, loving those. Anyway, so I hope you like them too. If you did, give them, or if you do, give them a thumbs up. If you don't already subscribe, do hit the subscribe button. Remember that I am doing my 4,000 subscriber giveaway, which is running from, it started on Saturday, and it's running through until, I want to say the 12th, but all the information on that is over on my blog. You can enter wherever you are in the world. The prize is slightly different if you're outside the Stampin' Up European area, but it's still a great prize. So I hope you enter that. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below, or you can leave a comment over on my blog. And as I say, the blog post is linked immediately below, and there's also a link to my online store and all that good stuff in the description bar below. And remember, we've got bonus days running. £45, spend £45 or a multiple thereof in any order in August, and you get a voucher for £4.50 to spend in September. So it's a great time to stock up on stuff. If you've always wanted something like the Stamparatus, that's just over £45. If you buy that in August, you're paying for your postage in September. Brilliant. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye!